Bills at Ravens. So many things to think about with this, starting with all of the guys that could or could not play in this game. The Bills were so hurt last week. They still almost managed to knock off Miami on the road. It sounds like Jordan Poyer, Christian Benford, Ed Oliver, guys that either missed last week or got dinged up in the middle of last week's game. Isn't it amazing that Christian Benford is now an important player for the
I love it.
Buffalo Bills.
I love
it's
that.
The guy, 6th round.
Just wait till Reggie Gilliam's out. Wait till Reggie Gilliam's
out. Missing Christian Benford, but they did when they had to play with Ingram last week and Benford was out. You noticed that. So getting those guys back in the back end will be absolutely huge against a Ravens team that has thrown the ball pretty damn well with Lamar Jackson. Ravens, some things to consider here. Michael Pierce is out. Ronnie Stanley may be back. He did practice on Thursday this week, which is different than it has been over the last couple of weeks. So just a few things to take into account with who's going to be on the field. I want to start with this matchup talking about the quarterbacks. Surprise, surprise. But over the first 3 weeks of the season, not who's been best or who's played quarterback at the highest level or who leads the league in this sort of stat.
Yeah.
I think that through 3 weeks, no two quarterbacks have been more important to their teams, more valuable to what their teams are than the Bills and the Ravens. And I think it's for a few different reasons, but I wonder if you think that's fair.
I absolutely think it's fair. I think these two should be leaving the MVP conversation right now just because they are the teams. Like they are the entire offense. They have nothing else that they can lean on. Of course, I'm going to say Mahomes out of the side of my mouth is the third. But I think these two, though, is just the usage for both of them is just insane. Yeah. And it's for a good reason. I mean, they are the best players on the field. It feels like a high school offense in a way where they're like, hey, just give the ball to the best player. Get out of the way. Everybody else just don't fuck it up for us. That's kind of how it feels a little bit with these teams.
Yeah, and I think with Buffalo, it's that they can't block anybody. That's their biggest issue right now is that up front, they're just not very good. You know, we thought that was going to be an issue coming into the game or into the season, and there are going to be moments in games where Josh Allen completely mitigates that, where he's able to kind of pull something out of his ass. He's able to not turn pressures into sacks. He does it so well, and I think from a team-building perspective, it's why you can skimp there a little bit. The thing about this Ravens team, though, is that they don't have the guys to necessarily take advantage of that problem.
No.
Miami doesn't have a superstar edge rusher, but there isn't even a guy on this Ravens front that's as dangerous as a Melvin Ingram was for the Dolphins last week. So I think it's twofold here. If you're the Buffalo Bills and you can't block this Ravens team if they're not blitzing, we have a serious problem. And if you're the Ravens and you can't beat up this Bills offensive line, we have a serious problem. So what that matchup looks like, I think, is going to be important not only for how Sunday plays out, but for what the prospect for these teams looks like moving forward. The Ravens went out and signed JPP this week because they need something on the edge, and that is a concern.
They just need bodies. It's not like they're like, they just need guys that they can play. This team just, I mean, the Dolphins game is the prime example. They just get gassed because they have nobody else. They have nobody else they can lean onto, not even just a role player. The guys that were supposed to be role players are starting. Like, you know, it's just how it kind of works with them. And I made this joke on a different show, but I got to come back to it. It's like, it's the Bills run game it feels like the LeBron first Cavs team where it like Mo Williams,
Larry Hughes.
Yeah, that's the run game. It's just to give LeBron a break. Like that's all it is. It's not to like score a bucket. It's like, no, it's just like, let's just get to 2nd and 9. And that's just exactly what they have to go with. I know, Beller. I have to lean into this because this is what I am. I don't have the bandwidth to craft 5 jokes. But I think it's just this Bills offensive line. It is horrid. Like as far as run game wise, and the Dolphins were heating them up, and it was remarkable that Josh Allen. It speaks of how incredible Josh Allen is playing right now. That he's able to make these plays, and you know we talk about, oh wow, this Bills offensive line can't block anyone. They can't pick up a blitz. But really, it's speaking to Josh Allen making so many things happen that you didn't even notice it that much. He's turning negative plays into super positive plays, to explosives, to first downs. So, yeah, it's one of those that how long could that sustain? That is really hard place to be. There's a reason that why I said high school offense, not NFL offense, because usually it's sitting back in the pocket and you can dice it up. Okay, we'll run the ball for 4 or 5, 6 yards. Okay, make it easy on us. They're facing 2nd and 10, 2nd and 12s. 3rd and 14s, and Josh Allen's making all these plays. That's hard to do. Like Josh Allen's incredible, but that is so hard to do for 17 games. It really is. So this is going to be a good test for these lines, both lines that we're talking about, and whether they can find a way to make it easier on Josh Allen, because he can do the hard stuff.
One way to make it easier, potentially going after the cornerback on this team that is not Marcus Peters or Marlon Humphrey. Yeah. Last week, essentially split by half. Going back and watching the game, that's kind of what I thought I picked up on. Jalen Armour-Davis played a lot early in the game. He had a rough time on that side. And then Brandon Stevens played a little bit later in the game. I have to assume Stevens is going to get more of that run based on the way that last week went for Armour-Davis. But when you're looking at that secondary, that's the weak link. That other cornerback spot. And I think it's essentially solely on the right side. I think Peters has played on the left side almost exclusively since he's been back. So whoever that right corner is, are the Bills going to pick on that guy consistently? Because that's what the Patriots were able to do. And that's a lot of how they moved the ball through the air last week.
I can't believe you just said that. That's what the Patriots were able to do in the
passing game. True. Listen,
it is true.
Devontae Parker looked like Randy Moss for stretches of last week. So
he had like 100 some yards.
Going to do
quick. Yeah.
And, no, I mean, that's you're circling that guy in red pen.
I think there's going to be a lot of those
last week went.
A lot of those quick out RPOs that we see when the guys, because he's going to be petrified playing off, and so you're going to see. I bet you they pepper 4 or 5 of those. Just get those quick gimmies to him.
On the other side of the ball, Lamar Jackson has had to carry pretty much as much or more of the load than Josh Allen has based on how this offense is structured. Where have they failed him in your mind based on the way this thing is constructed? And where has he been able to kind of transcend their weaknesses the most?
I think, God, they run so many hitch routes. It's you got Rashad Bateman. They use him as like a deep ball guy. And it's like, this guy's like a crafty route runner, and they're using him not on any crafty routes. And when they do use him that way, it's like, there it is. That's why he's good at it. I think they are letting him be the pocket passer, and they're using the under center stuff, but the under center runs got to get better. If you're going to live this way and do the play action stuff, and you got to balance it out a little bit. I think they did lean into the gun run with Lamar reading stuff really well last week. So that was cool to see sprinkled in, but they got to find mesh it together a little bit better. And I think they're still trying to figure that out, but it's Greg Roman. So you always got to remember that. It's like, as excited I'm getting with Lamar and what he's looking like as a passer, it's like, oh man, can they adjust to all this? It's an interesting matchup as far as stylistically. It's so cool because it's the Bills are having a nickel or dime 95% of their snaps, only 5 snaps of base defense on first and second down against a team that runs the most heavy personnel and the most 21-12 in the entire NFL. They've only been in 11 personnel. We're going to talk about the stat again later. 10% of the time this entire year against a team that wants to be a nickel every snap. So that's a very fun stylistic matchup.
And there's another stylistic wrinkle. We talked on Sunday's show. Lamar has carved teams when they have brought pressure this year. He has been by far the most efficient quarterback in the league when blitz this season. Guess who doesn't blitz?
At all.
The Bills. The Bills do not blitz. If they know this, if they know you're one of the guys, there's a small table of quarterbacks that you just can't blitz anymore. And the Bills are totally fine just not blitzing them. It's not like the Cardinals where it's like, we're still going to bring 40% of the time. We're going to bring extra guys. We don't really give a shit. That's just how we live. The Bills are willing to just say, we don't do this. We are not going to blitz you if we think you can hurt us that way. And that's what the Ravens have done. So the Ravens are going to have to try to create explosive plays and create plays through the air against 7 guys in coverage this entire game. And the 7 guys in coverage for the Bills this week, even without Micah Hyde, are going to be better than the 7 guys in coverage last week for Buffalo.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing I was so curious about is this Bills, when you have a really awesome matchy kind of defense, everything is done on basically timing. They have to cover for about 3 Mississippis. Lamar is so willing right now to hang in the pocket and let over routes keep running and hit him late. Like he's throwing those little sidearm passes to Mark Andrews late. That's going to be really cool. It's like, how can you get to 4 Mississippis? Bills defense. Like I think that's what they're going to be trying to attack. It's like, we're going to try and do more extended runny routes. Runny. That's not a term I ever want to use again. Routes on the move, I think is much better than static routes, because if you go static routes, which the Ravens have been doing in their passing game, a lot of
they'll eat you alive.
They'll crush you. They go, okay, have fun with that 3-yard gain on a hard.
It's exactly what they want. It's exactly what they want. You're playing into their hands if that's what you start doing.
So you got to be funky.
They want some of that longer developing stuff. Having Ronnie Stanley back in the lineup could be a big one with that. And we'll see what happens. If he plays, is he on the sort of pitch count that David Bakhtiari was on last week? But it sounds like Patrick McCarry might not play. So while the Packers have this surplus of offensive linemen and they can work him back slowly, do the Ravens have the same luxury? And I think that's a real question at this point. I am very excited to watch what this matchup looks like between these two guys, because they are playing at such an extremely high level. And again, what is being put on their plates is so outlandish compared to virtually every other quarterback in the NFL right now. We're seeing two guys kind of at the peak of their powers going at it, and that's must-see television.
Yeah, it's different than what Brady and even Mahomes have done the last few years, which is so pass heavy and them just dicing guys up from the pocket. These guys are just doing everything. It's so different, so different than we usually see. Even from Lamar's MVP year, this is different because he's passing more and being more the quarterback on top of all the run games.
They had the highest neutral situation pass rate in the league over the first 2 weeks, I think.
It's so crazy.
They're living in a different world than they were when he won the MVP, and he's still affecting the game at the same level. And I think that's what's so impressive about it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's two awesome players that playing at the peak of their powers going against each other. It's fun.
I think it's a really important test for the Ravens defense, because they're still figuring it out. It's the fourth game now of a new defensive coordinator. They got some new pieces on the back end. I think we're going to learn a lot about what they profile as moving forward in this game.
If they're testing his patience, this game is going to be, we saw in the Dolphins game when he kind of was feeling antsy a little bit. He started throwing some fire and it backfired against them. So let's see if he can just take a couple punches and just go, nope, we're not going to change our game plan, because that's what it's so hard against these good quarterbacks to not get antsy. Make them be patient. It's like, that's what both defenses have to be. The Bills have proven it year in, year out that they can do this. Can the Ravens do that with maybe not the best type of matchup that they want?